Welcome back to Danny Rants. We have a very special guest like every single week, an old friend of mine, the DJ's choice. I'd say he's every DJ in Australia's favourite DJ, none other than Medium Rare Records owner and all-around Australian larrikin, Mr. Benson. How are you, my man?
Yeah. Fuck, what an intro. Thanks, brother. Yeah, good to see you.
A lot of energy in that one, eh?
Oh, yeah. Charging. I love it.
So what's been going on, my man?
Mate, yeah, I was chilling this morning and get a little text from you last minute, someone pulled out, jump on the potty. So I've zipped over here to rip into a few yarns with you.
Perfect timing, but because you don't live here, you live in the USA, and we're going to get into that. But it's not often that you're back on home soil, or even in Melbourne, which is like home soil, I guess.
Yeah, a bit back and forth at the moment, but yeah, I've been based over there for a little bit. But it's always good to come home. I love Melbourne, so it's great.
I just got back from Germany and I feel the same. I was literally just saying to Aiden before you got in, I'm like, bro, like every time I leave now, it's like I miss home more, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I realize how good this fucking place is.
It is good. It's like you kind of don't realize it until you piss off for a bit, but it's fucking awesome. I mean, the food, the people, culture.
It's chill, safe.
Yeah.
Hospitals, right.
Feel loud entertainments, events, you know.
And they're back on the board, baby. So for people who don't know who you are, obviously we've known each other for a long, long time. Can you give us a little bit of a run up about what you do, who you are, and everything that is Benson?
Yeah, my name's Benson. My name's actually Ben O'Connor. I didn't pop out the womb and mum's like, I'm Benson. But I sort of grew up in the eastern suburbs, out in Ringwood. Went to school out in Norwood out there. And about 16 or 17 years old, I started DJing at a bunch of house parties for some mates. It was like almost a golden era of music around that time, 2006, 2007. The Ministry of Sound annuals were just, everyone had that CD in their car. Probably I used to just crank it in my VP Commodore, just blasting it. A couple of like 12-inch kicker subs in the back, just doing some damage. And I just loved it. And I thought, you know, I think this is what I want to sort of get into. Started off as a bit of a hobby. And then I think when I was turning 17 or 18, I think I was actually 17, played my first nightclub gig, which was through you and Kyle, I think. And I think you boys thought I was 18, but I was definitely 17.
Oh, but look, I'm not going to lie.
Nah, you knew I was 17.
There was a couple of little loopholes.
Yeah. Yeah, so because my fake ID, it said I was about 22, so there was,
I think
unless I got kept down a fair few years in high school, that definitely.
I think my rule back then was don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
So I was like, can you play? And if they said yes, there was like, you know, but again, you talk about, there was a little, things were a bit different back then.
Yeah. You could sort of get away. You push the boundaries a little bit. So yeah, got into that and then, did a couple of gigs, but as soon as I finished high school, my parents relocated us to the family, me and my little brother. We moved up to the Central Coast of New South Wales. So I went from schoolies. I thought I had it all, man. Like just played a nightclub gig or going to schoolies. But then on the flight home, flew back from schoolies to the new place. It was kind of like starting all over again with music, I guess. So sort of the connections I'd made over the last couple of years were kind of irrelevant. But my dad said to me, it was pretty funny, when he was trying to convince me and my brother to move up there, which he didn't have to convince us, we just had no money, like there's no way. And my brother was like 15, so it's not like we were going to stay in Melbourne. But he told me there's some really cool nightclubs up there, mate, you're going to love it. And we were reluctant at first, but he told me, my brother, that he'd buy us the new PlayStation and if we did agree to move up there. And
good deal.
Yeah. Me and my brothers, we had a game plan that we were just going to hold out and we were not going to move, and we're going to, as soon as my dad threw that on the table, he just stood up. He's like, deal, done. So we moved up there and then, I started handing out, went to a local nightclub one night to hand out a demo. It was like a 50-minute mix or something like that. There's these local promoters, Josh and Nathan. I think that was called Loose Music. Fucking pretty sick name. And they were throwing some parties up there and Ajax was playing. And so I sort of went down there and handed my demo, and it was like a pivotal thing. Kind of everything sort of slowly started from there, I guess.
Because that's like one of the things I actually was going to talk about, right? So I know that you kind of left us, and I remember you playing for us when you were down in Norwood, and we were doing a lot of stuff in Ringwood too. No doubt you probably would have played at Orange Whip at that same sort of point, and maybe that's how we found you. But then you left, and then we reconnected maybe, I don't know, it could have been a year, it could have been 2 years or whatever it was, but we started talking online again because you were working in different projects, but you all of a sudden knew Ajax. And Ajax, to anybody who lived in that peak era of music, he's the god, right? Like he was the guy. Everybody looked up to him. It's like he obviously owned Sweat It Out. He was that back then when In The Mix had credibility. He basically toppled it every single year that it mattered. Like nobody really did anything like him. He was a member of Bang Gang. Fucking Subi. The list goes on of all the feats that he did, right?
It was fucking cool as well.
Yeah, exactly. And just like gave a fuck about everybody too.
Yeah.
So then you become friends with Ajax. So like run us through how you sort of start that relationship. Like how does that even happen? And then I guess where does it go?
Yeah, so that night I got handed my demo. I was a huge fan of him before that night. I was just going down the nightclub like a little 18-year-old Skinner handing my demo to the promoters. And they were like, hey, Ajax is playing tonight. Do you want to stick around and watch him? And I was like, absolutely. I think I'd snuck into third class to see him when I was in year 12 or something like that a few times. And just a massive fan. And so I stood there and just watched him DJ for a couple of hours. I don't know if everyone in that area was super familiar with him, but it's a bit of a Bogan Beach town. But it was a good little couple of years there for me. But I was out the front and he was having a ciggy. And I went up to him and was like, man, that was incredible. Like I've seen you play a few times in Melbourne. I just moved up here, living around the corner. And he was like, what are you doing up here, mate? This place is worse than Geelong. He's like, you got to get out. You got to get out of here and get back to Melbourne. And he gave me a lift home that night. And it was about a 10-minute car ride. And I was just asking him every single question I could get in with that 10-minute car ride. And he just finished touring with Daft Punk. They'd done that 2007 Alive tour.
Fuck, was he on that?
Yeah.
What?
And I think he was just, he just had story after story. And I was just like locked in. I'm like, this guy's a man. This is sick. And we pulled up out front of my parents' place and he was saying goodbye. And I was like, you sure you don't want to stay here? We've got a spare room. Like, stay in the study at the parents' house. And he's like, no, mate, I'm playing a Bang Gang gig back in Sydney that night. So it was about an hour and a half drive to Sydney. So he's like, I've got to get back there. I'm like, you got any tips to making music or anything like that? And he said, just get a program and, a MIDI keyboard and just have a go. So the next day I went down to the music shop and sort of loaded up. Then a couple of years later, I had moved back to Melbourne, which is when we reconnected. And got an email in my inbox one day and it was from him. And he'd saying, hey mate, I've found a bunch of your edits and bootlegs that you've been putting on these music blog sites. Do you want to come have a meeting? And I got to his house and he opened the door and he's like, how do I know you? And I was like, yeah, you dropped me home a couple of years ago. And he was telling me he was starting a new record label called Sweat It Out. For the next year or two, he was sort of played like a mentor, like role. And he was kind of someone that you would send something to for approval, like you'd really look up to. And we managed to, I think one of the last things before, which people that know him obviously know the story, but he passed away not long after that. And one of the last things that he put out was a remix that me and him did together of Land to Be Cool track, I think it was. But he'd started this label when I was at his house and he was just so excited about it. And he's like, I've just signed this young band called Rufus. And I was like, I think I've heard of him. And I think it was What So Not. There's a few other young acts coming through as well.
Parachute
Youth, yeah, which was a big, that tune was huge back then. It was really exciting. Obviously when he passed away, it took a couple of years later, I then ended up releasing on the label and I did my first 2 or 3 main releases with them over the years, which was a great platform and it's still a really great label. And all the people that work there are just amazing people. They put out some really good music and quite diverse. And it's probably one of the premier indie dance labels, not in Australia, but maybe across the world as well.
Yeah, wow, really, you reckon? I obviously know it is in Australia, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, they've done some really different stuff over the years. You know, from Rufus to like, you know, Purple Disco Machine. They've kind of got like a little bit of everything.
Even Dom's sort of some
Dom Dolla,
breakthrough. All his breakthrough
Torrent
stuff.
Foot, like they've got a good crew.
It's the who's who of fucking the world, really.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not just like one genre of music. Like a lot of labels are like sort of stick to the pocket.
Yeah.
It's kind of little indie dance. You know, they've got Crooked Colours, like Winston Surshire. Like they're all just quite different. Yeah, good people and good time.
Yeah, crazy. So like I know like again, like I obviously kind of met Ajax via you. I knew who he was, but it was actually through your connections. But like what was the sort of impact on the dance community and yourself when Ajax did pass away?
Yeah, it was weird because like we didn't hang out like all the time. Like it wasn't like my best mate or anything like that. But it was more like when you would see him, he would just like make you feel like you were super important. He would just listen to you. And especially he was a lot older than, I think he might have been 41 when he passed away. But he would always give the time of day to like the young up and comers. Like we were like in our early 20s and he used to catch up with us. We'll go to a bar or like, I remember one night he played at Tramp and he hung around with us like till it closed, like till 6, 7 in the morning. And he just loved like getting in the trenches with it, which is kind of why he had such a good taste in music. I guess people get older, they sort of slowly disconnect from the scene where they have family or kids or other responsibilities and they'll kind of come into the gig and then go away. But yeah.
He was like a fine wine. He got better. Yeah. And like you talk about tastemakers.
Yeah.
He's the tastemaker like of that generation sort of.
Yeah.
And it's like he literally continued to do better and cooler shit as he got older and older where normally it's the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. And I could be wrong, but I don't think he started DJing till like maybe late 20s, 28 or something.
No shit.
It was like a I'm like, don't quote me on this. But I'm pretty sure he was like a uni professor or was something
crazy.
Yeah, something crazy.
My biggest thing was like, go back to you being in Central Coast or what you call Bougainville, but like they, but I just remember like asking him questions when we first started. And it's another part we're going to go into, like record labels and stuff. You know, a big part of your life. But it's like I remember just asking him questions, like shooting them, thinking, "There's no way in fucking hell this dude's going to reply." And he'd be like, "Hey man, just use this distributor, do this," and just full give me the open book. And I was just like, "What?" Because he was just about it. You know, he's about helping people, which is wild. Yeah. So winding back from that, right? So you're living in Central Coast. How long were you actually there for?
Oh, just over 2 years. It wasn't too long. Yeah.
And what was the project? You had a project. I'm in my head. I'm seeing like this doctor thing. There's some face masks. Like, what was that project called?
Yeah.
Brain Dead or something, wasn't it?
Brain Matters. Yeah, yeah. We used to wear doctor's scrubs. Fuck, it's pretty cringe when I look back on it.
It's happened to the best of us.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has an origin story that doesn't have some sort of cringe.
Yeah, it was with a guy called Northy, who was like, actually was one of the first guys I started making music with. And yeah, Brain Matters. I wonder if you can pull a photo up. There's a couple still floating around the internet. Yeah, it was kind of fun though. It was good. Yeah, it was still a good time. Played some like first interstate gigs and shit like that. It was cool. And then when I moved back to Melbourne, just pretty much just do Benson stuff from then on out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we reconnected like as you landed. So like from my memory, and tell me if I'm wrong, but again, you were talking about Ajax picking up all those remixes and stuff you're doing. Much the same, because I was always online looking for stuff and looking for artists and whatnot. I'd heard all the remixes you're doing, and at the time it was like two worlds collided. I started moving from sort of the Melbourne minimal shit that I was doing or techno stuff I was doing. And I started moving into Jack and House, Ghetto House, Australian House, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I was looking to put together a team. Old mate Mitzi, Mike Metro, one of our great mutual friends.
Yeah.
He shifts with me into that style of genre. And then I'm looking for a team, and you sort of come a part of that team as soon as you shift down to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And we sort of start to take on Tramp Fridays, which is notoriously known as Fake Tits. Yeah. A lot of people have untagged their name from that because it's not really politically correct anymore. But at the time, no one really batted an eyelid. Which was an iconic night, right? And you obviously had a lot to do with it too, like with programming and stuff like that. Or
it was
helping give me advice on what was good and what wasn't, and it became like an iconic fucking spot and a birthplace for a lot of careers, really. Like,
so had a few people coming through there.
Yeah, fuck, like you look back, it was like Peking Duk, What's Her Not, you know, never played there, but Flume came through there, you know, it was like Danny T.
Pretty sure Wax Motif maybe
Wax
as well.
Motif, the list goes on.
Ajax played there as well.
Ajax played there heaps, Bass Clef played there. Like it was sort of like a home away from home from a lot of these interstate artists. And traditionally, obviously, interstate artists, they just never got booked in Melbourne until we started that space.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty rare. I guess Melbourne was so cliquey then as well. And it still kind of is, but like it was just why would we pay $1,500 or $2,000 for someone to come down from Sydney when you can chuck on Metro for $250 and give him 10 drink cards and he'll pack out the joint.
100%. And that was the truth. We had to like go against it. It was a massive challenge even with the club. Like, we're going to bring this guy in that no one knows, and it was like an education piece. Like, we have to educate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good fun though.
100%. And you moved back into Ringwood where you were living with all your mates and stuff. So like, what was that transition like when you first came back into Melbourne?
It was pretty exciting because like, it was, I'm very like a mate, like I'm very guy, like I've always had a big like friendship group and a close friendship group as well. So coming back was super exciting. I mainly I'd got a few jobs when I'd moved back and I just kept getting sacked from all of them. Like, I was just getting sacked. I mean, my dad it's pretty funny. My dad had teamed me up with this one job. I went in for an interview. I think I was working for a construction company and I was like managing sales reps, and they were going around to job sites and selling construction gear or like shit that we need to build warehouses or whatever. And I was like managing these guys. I went in for the interview and I just sort of put some mayo on what I knew. But I was given my own office, like company car, like, I had phone, laptop, everything. And all I was doing during the week was just emailing my mates, just saying, oh, we're going out Friday night, it's going to be sick, blah, 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 I'm playing, come along. And didn't really think that the boss forgot that he had access to those emails. So after that, I got called in to work and he said, mate, today's your last day. I had a 3-month probation period as well, and I didn't even make it. I made it like 2 months through. And he's
Unless you tried.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, today's the last day. He's like, well, you're getting fired. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Oh, you got me. And the fact was, I'm pretty sure that they paid me out for the remainder of that's how much they wanted to get rid of me. I had a month left of my probation. They're just like, pay me out, just get me out of here. And I got home that day and I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to just try and find some more DJ gigs until I can find another job. And then, but that was the last time I didn't find another job. That was the last time. And
you ever did it?
I think it was about 23 or something like that, maybe 22, 23. And that was the last job I had, I think.
It's a real common story. Hey, like, even me, like, or anybody that I speak to, really, they have the same problem. Like, they're just so obsessed with something else that they can't hold a job.
Yeah.
So, and I always use the term, it's like feeling like a circle peg, like trying to go through a square hole.
Yeah.
That's you, right? But I was actually a question that I had for later on, but you left at 23 and then you sort of, started to get gigs and you've lived off that full time really since, right?
Yeah.
So like, how and why, like, how did you do that at the start? And then how have you maintained it? Like, obviously you work in music, everybody knows it's up, down, fucking sideways, left, right. How has that been for you? How have you kind of gone through it? If someone, is listening that is considering doing it, or second to that, like some of the woes, like the ups and downs of it?
Well, I think the reason I did it is music and like making music and was something that I can only like focus on like throughout my life. It's like one thing when I'm like sitting down and making music, it's just like, it's kind of like therapeutic, like a meditation almost. Like, just phone goes off and you kind of get into like this, I don't know, it sounds wanky, but like this flow state of, and my attention really just focuses.
Is that before or after you put your face in the cold water?
Oh, when I do my morning routine?
Yeah.
Yeah, do the old cold plunge and then, run like 40 Ks and then I get into the studio.
Is that all?
Yeah, it's one of the slow days. But it was just, Yeah, I think it's because I just loved it so much. It doesn't feel like work or putting the effort into stuff like that. It just feels like I'm having a good time all the time. But I guess when I stopped working, it was quite a different era because that is like, over 10 years ago now. And living in Melbourne, you could play like 6 or 7 gigs over a weekend because the clubs are open to like 6 or 7 a.m. or you have places like Revs that just like don't shut. So
well, back then though, there was actually like 10 clubs that didn't shut.
Yeah. But you could play like 9 till 10 o'clock somewhere, then like 10:30 till 12, and you're like basically that Melbourne gauntlet where you're just running around, 5 minutes late to one gig and then you're early to the next. But you could play like, 3 or 4 gigs in a night. And then, sometimes you could do that over the week. So you could actually make pretty good money as a young guy when your rent's only like, $100 a week or whatever. And you can be making like, as a kid, like, like $800 or $900 a week. Like it's pretty sustainable. It's not sustainable health-wise.
Nah, there's a lot of free piss that comes with that.
Yeah, but it was super exciting. But I think after a year or two of that, I sort of wanted to like, I guess where a brand comes involved, where if you're saying yes to everything, it kind of diminishes the product. So I was trying to pick and choose a little bit more, and I was really getting into production and was starting to release music on good labels, and I wanted to play interstate. And I thought, if I'm not so accessible all the time, when you agree to do a show, you will get, a higher fee, or people will be more inclined to come and see you because it's not so common and you're not always in their face. But when you do that, you do take a hit, I guess, financially, because, sometimes it might not work. It may. I'm not sure if I would recommend, like it worked out for me, but if you want to do that, the good thing would have something on the side where you're not relying solely on the money from your music. So the decisions you made aren't affected by, I need the money, so I needed to do this gig.
How did you sort of navigate that? Like, no doubt in my mind, there's times where you're like, fuck, I just need the money. Like, that's all struggling artists. Doesn't matter if it's music or fucking painter, Like, how did you navigate that, those periods of time? Did you just have to commit to the end goal and just go, fuck it, I'm committing to this?
Yeah, it was just like, we're too far in, so we just got to do it. So, and I think around that time, I got management, which was Ben Dennis, who was managing Peking Duk at the time, and I think having a bit of a structure around, he's very good at planning and organising, and he sort of came up with some ideas for that, like, and some goals, and just setting out like more of a long-term strategy.
Totally get that. Because his background too was like live music and stuff like that. So he was more about building brands or work with people who'd built brands. And that was that kind of transition of DJs turning into like live performance or brands and running their own shows and shit. Like that, those guys from live music world, and I think Dove Smith was one of his mentors, a guy that I know, I don't know if you know him or not, but he was kind of helped coach him go into that space. But even prior, like I was managing you, and it was all about just fucking volume. I was just like, get your 10 gigs a weekend, and then your name will get built up. But that was the old kind of hat style of it. And then that new style of not brand building, but like with an idea of doing bigger shows, like, treating it like a concert, which now we see the back end of it, which is guys like Dom doing fucking concerts at Flemington, which blows my mind, not because Dom's doing it, like that's crazy insane, but it's like the model, like the idea of watching an artist playing that kind of music in a concert format at Flemington is just fucking odd. But they're the beginning times, what you're talking about when you're working with Bennis, is that goes to where it is now, right? Yeah,
I guess the bigger picture, I mean, his big picture is on IMAX. It's fucking huge, like it's crazy seeing, where he had like 60,000 people over there over that weekend, 30,000 on each night, which is crazy. And he was at those nights early on, like at Tramp and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
with his old.
Yeah. I remember DJing Dom, he's like, come up, he's like, can I have some drink cards? I'm like, here you go. And he actually, he did a lot of, and he said it like before he got into it, he was doing more graphic design. He did the logos like half of the Melbourne club scene at one stage.
Bro, he was fucking, so he actually did, this is something that I only got told the other day. So I asked for the loud format because we did Reminisce.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does anyone have the loud logo? And it got sent, it had Dom on it. And I'm like, Dom, and Butters is like my graphic designer who you know I've worked with forever. He's like, yeah, you paid Dom to do it. So Dom Dolla did the loud fucking entertainment logo. I was like, no shit. I remember paying like $4.50 and thinking, fuck, like that's a lot of coin for a logo.
Yeah. $4.50. Yeah. Fuck, he's
and he was
me.
the best of the best part. Like he was like most well-respected club flyer guy. And like you'd have to be killing it to be able to get Dom to do your shit.
Yeah. Nah, he's that was like such a long time ago, but yeah, we're still really good mates as well. And it's just great to see him.
Killing it, yeah.
He's like, he's got to be like the biggest in the world, like in that.
I think arguably as a pop star now.
Yeah.
It's fucking, if it's not there yet, it's about to be there.
Yeah, when you talk like actual like fans that will go to his shows, like.
It's insane.
What did he do, like 190,000 tickets or something like that?
I've heard everything from 180 to 215. So it's somewhere in that mark, but it's like you're talking AC/DC figures. So it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Go into that alumni, right? Like your alumni is massive. You just drop Peking Duk, Dom Dolla, you know, Ajax, all these guys. At the beginning of the podcast, I said every DJ's favorite DJ is you. You are a well-known larrikin. Like anyone who knows you you're basically Big Bopper or C-Pig. You've got a million different names. And it's because you are sort of like the mascot for the industry and you always have everyone rolling around in stitches. Can you explain some of the like larrikin-y stuff that you've done like online and shit that blew up? I'm kind of leading towards that McDonald's one video. Yeah. And then I guess in second to that, like the alumni that you have built and hung around with and how you met some of them.
Yeah, I guess early on it's like, it's great to see the guys that you started hanging out with like doing so well as well. So, yeah, like What's So Not's a good friend of mine. Like his music's quite different, but we just put out a track together. We met early on when I was up north, like near Sydney. And like basically like Torrin, Mike Metro, Dom and like Favour and stuff was pretty much just rolling around at nightclubs in Melbourne. And then like Favour obviously running the Mint Lounge and Werribee, like it was a good little crew. And the Peking Duk guys, like we've been mates for such a long time. Our music's quite different, but what brought us together, I guess, was sort of our humour.
Personalities, yeah.
Yeah. So we loved to gag. Yeah, we did some pretty funny tours and stuff over the years. Where basically we'd stop halfway through their set and they'll just get me out on stage to do stand up for like 5 minutes. And the crowd's like, get this guy off. But they loved it. And yeah, it was like right at their sort of peak when they were written high and I think they were really starting to take off. But now fast forward, like living overseas, Dom lives around the corner and Favour and like some of those guys who you grew up with, and it feels like the same, but it's just in a different joint, Yeah,
it's fucking weird, but hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's insane to watch. Like I've watched different flows of, people as a promoter flow through. Like, and I remember like, originally back in the day, guys like Will and stuff playing at 7 a.m. for $50. And then Peking Duk coming through when we did their first tour, which I think we did it together, and paying them $4.50 for the weekend. And they were staying in a fucking, I'm pretty sure a speed lab at just outside of Essendon. Yeah. I picked them up. I'm like, is that meth cooking? And then they're getting shipped around to Geelong and playing for basically free, building their like careers.
Yeah.
Now that, they're one of the most celebrated Aussie dance live acts there is. And even Flume there, I remember I met through him and then it goes on and on and on. But it's actually fucking insane to be your alumni, especially because you were super heavily involved with them. A lot of the guys that I know, I met through you, but it's just like watching that, like the ebbs and flows that some of these guys have lived in their careers is just insane. It's like, is there anything you can look at and go, this is what makes them a rock star, you think? Or like, is that sort of makes them stand out?
I don't know like what it would be, but maybe it's just like you're growing up sort of together and it's a healthy competitiveness of like he's doing that. Like, oh, I should lift and try harder. Like, put my music out. I want to get on that label. And it's like a good thing to help drive each other moving forward. And I think maybe that is a part of it. I literally, you know.
Couldn't put your finger on it.
I couldn't put my finger on it. Actually, I think all those people have done well because they're good people. Like, and I think that's the main thing about in the music industry is like just being not a fucking dickhead, not taking yourself like overly seriously. Like you can take music seriously, but you know, there are people in that in the world where you're just like, that guy is just, I've never seen that guy smile, or why is he wearing sunglasses in at Nando's? You know, like, you know,
his attitude stinks.
Yeah. I haven't seen him without sunglasses on, like, you know, so it's like, there's probably that as well. And people like working with good people. And probably like early on, a lot of the opportunities that I got was just, I was friends with a lot of the people. Like we would hang out. I wouldn't hang out with the people to further my career. I like would hang out with people because I enjoyed hanging out with them.
And I think, yeah, that's a testament to the fact that you knew these guys when they were fucking getting 1,000 streams, right?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, it goes back to what you were saying is that just being a good bloke. Like that was sort of what you were famous for is like if people going on tour, they wanted Benno on the tour because you bought the lols, and on top of that, you're a great artist, right? So going into that, you've been on some crazy tours, no doubt. I've been on some fucking tours that we might be able to talk about. We'll see. But that was very, very early days, and they were very shoestring budgety sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But do you have any like crazy wild tour moments or crazy stories you're allowed to share with me?
Well, I reckon the first big tour I did was with the Duck guys when I was really about to pop, and we did like a regional tour, and we did 14 gigs in a row. And it was like all over the country. So that was like the first time I was like, I'm actually on tour, because touring in Australia is like, you kind of just play in the weekends if you're a DJ, unless like you're crazy big. But
the tours go for like 3 months and it's actually 7 shows.
Yeah. It's like fucking crazy tour. And like, how do you it's like, just play 2 gigs. But that was funny. It was like a long tour and we were having just a really good time. Just like having just a laugh. I remember there was, I don't know, I'm sure I could say this. There was this one story that we'd made up towards the end of the tour. I think it was about probably 10 shows in. So we made up this theory on the first, the guys got on the mic towards the end, and I was saying we were kind of doing stand-up towards like halfway through their set. We'd just get on the mic and tell stories. I don't know if everyone really liked that, but we really did. But it was this story that we come up with, and it was like, you know, at the first show, we were in Coffs Harbour, and there was a couple, and they were there was a lady there, Janet, who was heavily pregnant. Halfway through the set, she went to labour, and that was a few weeks ago. We reached out to her, and we offered to fly her out to the show. So she's got a little baby here, baby Anthony. So they go, bring the baby out on the stage. Obviously that whole thing's made up. So Ruben brings out a fake baby, like all wrapped up. And then, like, all right, everyone be quiet for baby Anthony. He brings the baby out and fake trips and just like punts this baby into the crowd.
Oh my God.
And then punts this baby into the crowd, and the whole crowd is just silent. Like, did he just kick a newborn baby into the crowd? And then it was like, run the track, 1, 2, 3. And then just people like, oh, okay, what are you going back into it? And we're like, by the way, that was not a real baby. And people like, you know, just in utter shock. But I think our manager found out that we did that, and he was not happy.
I wonder why.
Yeah, you can't be punting. You can't be punting babies. But we've still got a group chat that we call Baby Anthony that we still talk in to this day.
Oh, that's so fucking funny. I feel like those guys are underrated too. Like I remember like when we went to Fiji like years and years ago, I don't know how, but we found ourselves in these weird situations where we got invited for free. I think you played maybe, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And that was that. Do you remember with Blue Sky?
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember how I had to stay with the dude who was Tiki Tane's brother and he was a gang member? And I was too scared to stay at the house because he yelled at me, so I had to sleep on someone's sofa in the fucking...
I remember that.
Yeah. I went with those guys, but I remember we'd be partying with them till 5 a.m. and then you'd see them at 9 o'clock in the morning, fresh as a daisy, going on fucking tours. I was like, how are they doing this? They
Going
were
snorkeling
animals.
and shit.
Yeah.
It was,
do you remember, this is completely off topic, but I'm just going to say it. I don't think it was you, but it could have been. But one of the boys, when we were coming back to the room, it was like there was like a tiki party or some shit and rah. And I'm pretty sure I swapped ADHD medication for a gig at Fake Tits with Dad Farley. But one of the boys licked a frog. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Yartul. I'm pretty sure it was Yartul licked the frog. We're walking back to the room and there was frogs everywhere. And he's like, oh, you know, he goes, I'm getting a bit tired. Like, you know, I wish I had something to give me a little pick me up, and sees a frog and just picked it up and licked it.
Back to back.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm like, dude, like.
But it became a thing. I'm pretty sure your mate Benny afterwards, the day after, I was like, nah, he was sweet, bro. Give it a go. Like, it became like a bit of a thing.
Licking frogs. Yeah, fuck, that could have really gone either way. There was that, on that trip, I remember though, there was one guy that I think he was like, pushed his girlfriend or something in the pool. They were just married or whatever. And he got split up, like they split him and his partner up, which got around the whole festival. And for the rest of the festival, people had found out what room he was in, and they were just putting every drink
on his tab, yeah.
On his tab.
Yeah, I remember that.
And on the way out, I think we were walking past him, and in Fiji, they'd write on a little ticket and they'd put on a thing on your room. So mine was like about that big, but this guy was just like this.
Mine was very low too.
Yeah. I was putting on everyone else's, not mine.
I remember mine being like $120.
But
There's no way.
that guy's bill was like $12,000, and he's just screaming on the way out. I'm like, sucked it. That's what you get.
Get fucked, dude.
Yeah, that's dickhead.
Got one back for the little guys.
Yeah, doing that bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, those early days, fuck, they were really funny.
Yeah, and they were. And there's a whole bunch. One of my favorite, which I'm not going to tell because it's way too embarrassing for both of us, involves a snow trip, some sleepwalking, and the fact that we both used to urinate on things on tour whilst asleep. And it's fucking hilarious, but I'm not going to tell it.
Yeah, there's a few sleepwalking ones.
Which is kind of funny. So you and me, we would go on tour and we both had, we used to both do it. So at times we'd have two idiots in this little room on $100 budget walking around sleepwalking, trying to piss on shit while someone was trying to navigate us.
Well, I mean, if we're just going to, we've pretty much told it, but this one time he sleepwalked and pissed on something, and because I used to do a bit of sleepwalking, he just fully blamed it on me. But I'm pretty sure you pissed on my jacket.
I pissed in your jacket, yeah. And I walked into your room and my mate followed me, and then I pissed in your jacket and then packed it back away while I was asleep. And I was like, oh, it's a personal joke. And Hamo was like, that's a pretty fucked up personal joke.
Yeah. And I remember like sniffing it. I'm like, oh. I was like, I can't believe I've done that.
Not again.
Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, dude. Yeah, it's crazy that you did that. With all your friends just like pissing themselves. I think one of them's like, you can't let him take the blame for this.
I had to call you the day after and I was like, bro, remember that jacket? And you're like, you didn't. I was like, because it was either you or me were always pissing in things when we were pissed on tour.
Like we went there. Thank God those days are over. But yeah, there was
for you maybe.
Period of my life where I was just doing that. Like I remember like shorting out the house at our place in Ringwood and like, yeah, I mean, that's enough.
But yeah, but in saying that, reflecting on that is like, you know, all that whole kind of stuff, including that stupid shit, licking frogs, you keep punting babies, is like, that's why it's so fun at the beginning, right? It's so fun. Because you look at those core years when we first started and it was just, nobody was big yet. Yeah. We were all just having a go. Like there was some opportunities coming here and there. They were flying past. Some dudes were blowing up. Then they were continuing on. Other guys weren't. And it was just wild and fucking fun. Like that's basically what it was. And it was just a good laugh. Like that's what it was.
And that Mac is one that you were talking about. Like I still get tagged in that video where
Rainbow Serpent where you pretended to be it.
Yeah, I was spent the whole day dressed as, I was in Japan like playing some gigs maybe a few months before that. And I saw a Macca's like crew top, like a staff top. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know when I'm going to buy this. I'm just going to come handy one day. And then, on that, I think it was maybe the final day of Rainbow, just dressed as a full kit the whole day, was in character, just taking orders all day. And like, it took the role so seriously. Even cops came up to me like, hey mate, we want to put an order in for 600 nuggets. And I'm like, and I'd always take the Bluetooth, like the headset away. And I'm like, are you taking the piss, mate? 600 nuggets. You think that's funny? I've fucking got 3,000 people backed up in Bay 3. I'm under the pump and you're in here ordering 600 nuggets. Get out of here. It's like a bunch of police officers like, well, this guy's taking this role way too seriously.
The next part of your journey, it's not that I want to finish, I could digress off this, but is record labels, right? So you obviously, you talked about, you were kind of obsessed with them from the beginning when I met you. You know, you introduced me to a lot of labels. I started a label, little bit of a tidbit, which is strange, is I actually buy, it's called Say What Records. I buy, which I don't even know if you know this, but I actually buy the logo and the trademark off James Faver, who's now Dom Dolla's manager, because he was going to use it for a club name. And I'm like, I love that. Can I have it?
Yeah.
I take it on. I run it for about a year. I'm sort of like using you as a consultant to somewhat. And then I bring yourself and Mike Metro in. We start working on this label and we do really well in the beginning.
It was really good.
Yeah, and so like we get into that spot and I learn a little bit. You sort of took the fucking reins or whatever. This is the thing that I'm going to bring up real shortly, but I'm not going to carry on about it. We end up having a fallout over the label, but that's what happens because it's passionate. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because people watching this who know us, they're probably going to be like, is he going to? Yeah. So we have a fallout and it's over really not a personal thing. It's fucking passion and direction on this label.
Yeah.
You don't know this and I'm going to bring it up because I'm really honest on my channel. That is the reason why I quit drugs, because I feel like I lose a relationship with you that I really cared about.
Yeah.
And because of the way that I'm being and I'm doing drugs and whatnot, I feel like I'm being erratic and I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? But I fucked the relationship. The label collapses over. We move on. We mend bridges. There's water under the bridge now, hence why you're sitting across from me. But I don't know if you ever knew that, but that's actually why it was the motivator of why I quit drugs. Because I like regretted it after. I was like, fuck, I loved you. Like we had many good times. I had so much fun with you and the crew. And then I was like, it could have been solved so easy, but I just felt like in that time and place that I was, you know, in the spot I was in, I was making dumb decisions. And that is still to this day one of my probably biggest regrets, which I know is fucking dropping you that on you.
No, that's all right.
But it's like, it's not, and we've mended the bridge, it's all good, but it's like at the same time, I lost the record label that we were both so passionate about. We spent so much time on and we built, and we had guys like Motez, Peking Duk, yourself, Mike Metro, TJR. We had a really big list of like awesome fucking artists. I lose you, and then we sort of collapse the label, and then you move on to do Medium Rare Records, right? So moving past that, you've been running that for years now, but I want you to explain like how you get into it, how you monetize it. I know this is a complete fucking bombshell from me just dropping this.
No, it's all good.
And then how you sort of start to work in that space pretty seriously, because it's been a big part of your life the last decade.
Yeah, it's come, thanks for sharing that, by the way.
That's right.
I'm glad that we're mates and hanging out again, because those were some of the best times of just having a laugh about all the stories and stuff before and pissing and stuff like that. And it's just funny. Yeah.
And they are still. Fuck yeah. Yeah.
And I was never, it wasn't really a personal thing at all, but
and that's what pissed me off about it going back into it. It was because it was, you know, I wanted to go this way, you wanted to go this way. And then it was just dumb because it was just a conversation.
Then no one had it and we just like, right, well, if we can't agree,
everyone lost, and it was like it was something that was so easily avoidable. But anyway, you're young, dumb, and we move on and we grow up and we're different people and fucking way better, and we're back together. So
definitely a learning curve for me as well, because it's like.
But you ended up taking over the label. That's what I was getting at. So you ended up running it. You were doing all the ISRC codes. You were submitting everything. You basically were the label head, because I was off doing other projects. You learn within that industry. You learn a lot of, like, back then we were paying artists to do remixes and stuff to help build us. So like, I'd love you to kind of like really go into a bit of a deep dive about that.
Yeah, I guess we weren't making any money on it. We just liked doing it, and we're trying to build something fun.
And we did. Like a lot of those tours that we just sort of backed together was because of that. Like we were on tour making no money, but fucking having fun.
Yeah, it was good fun. So the label that I'm part of now was my business partner, Tom, who's a producer called Low 99. So I think it's 10 years this year that we've been doing it. I think over the last 10 years, you know, we've had, I don't know how many releases, like 150 releases or something like that. we both play very different roles. We talk about monetizing stuff. There are different ways that you can make money through labels, whether it's through, Beatport sales, whether it's through streaming platforms, things like syncs, which is like a really...
Can you explain? I know what a sync is, but I'm sure no one does.
So a sync is...
And there's a lot of money in syncing too.
Like the easiest way to describe a sync is the Jeep ad with the pot bellies, don't hold back. Like that's a really historically like a big sync. I have not, like that's not on our label, but that's when a company basically uses your song in their, in their commercial or TV ad, or Apple release a new thing and they have a song on it, or it's in movies or TV shows or anything like that. That's like sort of a big bulk of it. Which when they come along, which they don't always do, they're very handy. But I guess the main form of income would be, sales through Beatport or streaming numbers and things of that nature. To be completely honest, I sort of do like a lot of the more creative A&R stuff now. And Tom...
A&R is for someone who doesn't know, because again, we're using this language like because we know it, but what's an A&R?
I don't know.
Someone who finds artists?
Yeah.
I don't actually know what it stands for.
Artists and relations, right?
Yeah, maybe. So for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's basically someone who goes and scopes talent and then brings them in, basically.
Yeah, so it's you're looking for new talent, or if someone brings you a song, you basically give notes and feedback, go over it to help. You'll sometimes receive a demo, and to take a demo to an actual marketable and sellable track to put out involves a lot of work from like an A&R. And of course, the artists themselves that help do those changes. Takes a while to like sort of get good at that, and like how to. This song's not good enough, but it has potential. Like, how can I relay this feedback to a person with it being sort of simple and encouraging as possible, rather than a lot of people. And there's labels out there that they'll listen to the song once, and if they don't think they're not going to put it out from like, oh yeah, this is done, then they don't do that. But some A&Rs can there's like they will see potential in that song, and they'll work to get it to the level to release it, which obviously takes a little bit more work. But it's sort of how you grow and like build artists as well.
And you got a good ear for it. Like even when we were doing it together, there's some guys now that, like Phlegmatic Dogs, and there's some other heaps of Martin Vittoria or something like that. There's heaps of dudes you picked up from overseas that were like literally no ones that now I see on lineups like, BPM and Coachella and stuff like that. So you've been doing it for a long, long time. You've been able to pick that talent and navigate how to get them to the best possible way for releases on your labels. Yeah.
And it's good. Like, I mean, a lot of labels, you can sort of see a talent, like someone that's going to be pretty good. And I mean, these days, it's a little bit different these days because I don't think people like signing with record labels anymore. I think it's more staying sort of semi-wide independent and having a bit more freedom to move around the scene and release on community-based labels, which I think are probably the most important record labels out there, where they're attached to an artist, like Chris Lake's label, Black Book. Everyone loves, like for me, like that's such an incredible label. Like Solomon's label, Dynamic. These are like labels that have a huge community following them because they're just like, or when you go down the other route, like Afterlife and things like that. These have like these cult followings that this artist has built, which I think in the dance world, major labels have kind of always struggled with. And I feel like to build a career, you need to have good community, like a good community following at like a club level. And a part of building is being available to build. So you can like release a label here, release something there, do something on a label in Europe if that's where you want to move to, in America. Like there's different sort of... And
network and work with one another, right? Like that's another big thing. Like you see artists that swap, like they'll do, they'll release on one label and then they'll release on the other person's label, like a kind of relatively new thing, but that's pretty common now too.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Like, it's, I think it's a good way to do it. And I mean, maybe labels are leaning to more like non-exclusive deals where hey, I want to sign you for 3 tracks or 4 tracks. But within those 4 tracks, you can go and release on other labels, just so he doesn't feel like you're like tying someone down completely.
Yeah.
So they can still go and do it with others. Like, give us a song here, you release somewhere else. Give us a second song. But yeah, it's mainly just sort of working with artists that are fun to work with as well. Like, there's nothing really worse than working with someone who's a bit of a punish.
Well, you talk about Sweat It Out, say what, when we first started back in the day too, we were doing like invasions and parties and stuff, which now is humongous. You know, you look at like Tally-Tech, or you look at fucking all these massive European labels that throw parties. Some of the biggest ones, like what's that one in fucking Holland called? The biggest, when I say it, you'll know it, it's the biggest Awakenings. Yeah, and like Awakenings, like nowadays it's more than just a label. It's like it's a whole, like you said, community, or it's a party or whatever. Yeah. But back when we were doing it, it wasn't really like, I would say kind of again, like Ajax, Sweat It Out were the first to really do it, and then we followed on, and they're not saying in the world, but in Australia definitely. Yeah. But it's like there's so much more diverse, and they're more than just signing someone as a label. You moved to America. We talked about this at the start, right? So you decided to leave Melbourne or Sydney or wherever you were at before you decided to leave, and then you go to America. What was the purpose of that, like, thought process, and how big of a jump was that for you?
It was pretty big. Yeah, it was 2.5 years ago. I think I guess I thought that maybe there was just maybe like more opportunity for me over there with my sound. And I kind of just wanted to see what was out there. And like, if it worked, it worked. But I just wanted to go over there and just give it a crack. I'd been back and forth playing shows there since 2017. And at the time, I'd signed with like Ultra Records, who were based over there. I had an agent over there. I got the visa, which is quite a process to get. And I'm like, the original plan was to move right before COVID. When that happened, I kind of, we just put a pause on that until the time was right, which kind of gave me a couple of years sitting at home to try and get organized with music and things like that. But I spoke to my agent, Rob, over there, who I only had like 2 or 3 gigs booked in when I moved. And he was like, look, man, like, I'm going to tell you, like, we don't have like a shitload of shows, but like, if you want to come over and give it a crack, like, I'm sure, we can make it work. And that was just pretty much it. Like, just going over there and having a crack. And I wasn't sure if I'd last 6 months or a year. And then now it's been 2.5 years, and it's after like the 2-year point, it's like started to get some momentum and starting to do some really good collabs and working with some artists that I've, looked up to my entire life, and releasing on some really cool labels. And it's kind of like starting over again. And it's such a huge country. Like, when I look at the Australian market, you could only DJ, if you do like a national tour, you can't DJ for like 6 months because you're saturating the scene, or like the clubs can't book you. So if you're doing like a capital city run in America, like, you could play 7 times in California, like, and that's just one of the states,
Yeah.
And you got another 50 of them. So it's,
well, you do 52 a show every single week, and then you're back around. It's been,
and that's what you see. Like, you see some of them, the DJs over there playing literally every weekend, just constantly, like 3 shows a weekend. So I think that was like a catalyst. And like, if you can like semi crack it over there, you don't even have to be the biggest. You could like, you can make $500,000 a year. You can make $1 million a year. Like, if you get to that stage where you're playing most weekends. And it's, for me, I didn't think that would happen being in Australia. I didn't think you'd be able to break America while living in Australia. And the only way that I would be able to get into that market was I just risked it. I sold all my shit. I ran out of money like really quickly. Was pretty much on my ass. And then, a little wind would come here, or I could get a sink, and it would just keep me going. And yeah, the last year, like, I think I thought the first 2 years I would not make any money. I'd probably break even. And I was pretty much right. And now it's starting to tick over. I'm playing some really good festivals. some great club nights and having opportunities like playing like Lollapalooza in Chicago was crazy. Like
That's so sick.
achievement, like going from playing in a backyard in Ringwood to playing at a festival like that was pretty cool. So I think it's all worth it. And you get to live out and have a good time. Like you're visiting places and I love doing shit. Like I love traveling. And so for me, it's a fun life and you're lucky enough to get paid for it as well. Does
your manager piss in your jacket on tour?
No, he doesn't.
Things are looking up.
Yeah.
What I was going to say a quote that you said to me when I saw you at Dom. Like we talked about the America thing. We sort of had that convo, and something you said to me, which I have to bring up because I thought it was fucking hilarious and it's lived rent free in my head since.
Yeah,
I was like, "What's it like living in the States, Benno?" And you go, "It's like living in the internet."
Yeah, it's like living in America is like walking around inside of the internet.
I was like,
it actually is. You're looking around, you're like, it's just like fucking like 10 memes happening at once. There's a driverless car. There's a fucking robot delivering someone's, lunch. There's a dude doing a chin up like 200 meters up in the sky. Like he's up the top of a building and there's like firefighters down there trying to get him down. And you're like, I love it.
So we're going to wrap up the meeting. Sorry, we're going to fucking wrap up the meeting.
Good meeting.
We're going to wrap up today, but I want to finish on a high note, right? So basically, I would love you to tell me, is there a gig that sits in your head that is your favorite gig? It could be a small gig, it could be a huge gig, but a gig that sits there in your brain rent-free, iconically as your favorite moment or gig.
I reckon one of the favorite ones when I look back is probably when I went from playing nightclubs to I did my own show at the Corner Hotel, I think 2018, and it sold out. And I invited my mum and dad down. I think it was like 800 people there. And it was a bit of a risk at the time because not many DJs were doing the hard ticket things. And that was really cool because I looked up, my dad was like crowd surfing. He just bought some brand new glasses and they were just totaled and smashed. But that was like such a sick moment. And obviously Lollapalooza was just an amazing moment as well. And just, I think it was when I was finished my set, it was just a huge rainbow like in the distance. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And you know how fucking hard and expensive it is to organize a rainbow for you just set? I reckon those two are just awesome.
Double rainbow.
Yeah. I think it was a double as well, but yeah.
How much that cost?
I was like $250K.
Dude, it's been so fucking awesome to have you here and so awesome to catch you. Like even though it ended up being random, but it's been a fucking laugh and a little bit of tears. And now we're sitting here with a little bit of celebration and it's awesome to watch you prosper over in America, man. I've loved watching your journey from since you were 18-year-old kid to now where you are now. And I can't wait to watch you pay for 5 to 6 rainbows per set in the near future. You're a fucking legend, Benno. Thank you for coming down,
Thanks
man.
for having me, man. It's great to catch up.
I can't say sick on? Yeah, I can. So fucking sick on.